Okay, let's get right into it. We're always told just eat less and move more to lose belly fat, right? But it turns out there's a much deeper science at play. So today we're going to break down the real chemistry behind tackling that stubborn fat right around your middle.
I mean, this is the question, isn't it? It's the one so many of us ask. You feel like you're doing everything right. You're eating well, you're exercising, but that one area, it just refuses to budge. It is incredibly frustrating. And it turns out the reason has a lot more to do with your hormones than your willpower.
And yeah, the answer goes way, way beyond just counting calories. It's all about the specific types of food you're eating and the chemical signals, the little messages they send all throughout your body.
To really get a handle on the solution, we first need to understand the problem. And believe me, when it comes to belly fat, there is a lot more going on than what you can see on the surface.
Okay, so check this out, because this distinction is absolutely crucial. Not all belly fat is created equal. On one side, you've got subcutaneous fat. That's the stuff right under your skin, the fat you can actually pinch. But the real problem, the one we need to worry about, is visceral fat. This is the hidden, dangerous fat that's wrapped around your internal organs like your liver and your intestines. You can't see it, you can't pinch it, but it is way more dangerous.
And this is exactly why it matters so much. Research from places like Johns Hopkins shows that this visceral fat isn't just sitting there doing nothing. No way. It's metabolically active, and it's a huge player in raising your risk for all sorts of major health problems. We're talking heart disease, diabetes, even some types of cancer. So getting a handle on belly fat isn't just about how you look. It's about reducing this dangerous internal fat for your long-term health.
So if visceral fat is the big bad guy, what's a key part of the solution? Well, a massive clue comes from a really important long-term study that looked at what people ate and how it actually affected their waistlines over time.
But first, let's just do a quick refresher on grains so we're all on the same page. Whole grains, think oatmeal and brown rice, they contain the entire grain kernel. That means they digest slowly. Refined grains, on the other hand, like in white bread or bagels, have had all the good fibrous parts stripped away. This means your body breaks them down into sugar super quickly. And that difference in speed? Well, it turns out it's everything.
Now, have a look at this. This data is from the famous Framingham study, which followed thousands of people for years and years. The results are pretty striking. The group that ate the most refined grains saw their waistlines get bigger by an average of 2.9 centimeters every 4 years. But the group eating the most whole grains, look at that. They only saw an increase of 1.8 centimeters. That's a huge difference.
And you might think, oh, a centimeter here or there, what's the big deal? Well, over the 18 years of the study, it added up to a 5-centimeter difference. That's almost 2 inches less gain around the waist for the whole grain eaters. This is not a small thing. It's a powerful, long-term trend that's hard to ignore.
So this just begs the question, right? What is going on with whole grains? What's the secret ingredient that gives them this amazing protective effect? It's not magic, I can tell you that. It's a very specific type of carbohydrate with a really unique chemical structure.
And that brings us to the hero of our story today, a powerhouse nutrient called resistant starch.
Resistant starch, or RS for short, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a starch that resists digestion. So while most of the starches from, say, white bread get broken down super fast in your small intestine, RS just passes right on through, almost untouched. It acts a lot more like fiber.
And that journey is the whole point. Instead of getting absorbed immediately as sugar, resistant starch makes this long trek all the way down to your large intestine. And once it gets there, it becomes a feast for all your good gut bacteria who ferment it and create all sorts of beneficial things for your body.
And that process, that party happening down in your gut, it unlocks what we can basically call a fat-burning superpower. And it all comes down to changing your body's hormonal response to the food you eat.
Okay, let's walk through this, because this is the absolute core of the whole thing. When you eat refined carbs, they hit your system like a ton of bricks. They cause this huge spike in blood sugar, which then causes a flood of the hormone insulin. Now, high insulin is basically a fat storage signal. It screams at your body, stop burning fat, start storing it. And it loves to store it as that dangerous visceral fat. But foods rich in resistant starch digest slowly, so you get a much smaller, gentler insulin response. And when your insulin levels are low and stable, that's like a green light for your body to switch over into fat-burning mode.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. This quote from a major scientific review sums it up perfectly. It says, resistant starch promotes fat oxidation. That's just a fancy term for fat burning. And it prevents fat from building up in our fat cells. So,
In simple terms, it helps you burn more fat and store less of it. It's a total game changer.
So now that we know the science, the what and the why, let's get to the fun part, the how. How do we actually put all this into practice? Well, it's all about making choices that keep your insulin in check and boost your intake of this amazing fat-burning resistant starch.
Here it is, your playbook, based on recommendations from top researchers. Number 1, the big one. Swap those refined grains for whole ones to get more resistant starch. Number 2, you got to cut back on the major insulin spikers, like sugary drinks and processed snacks. 3, become a label detective. Read those labels to spot hidden sugars and refined flours. And finally, you can supercharge all of this with exercise. Physical activity helps lower your insulin levels, and lifting weights builds muscle, which basically turns your body into a metabolic engine that burns more energy all day long, even when you're resting.
You know, when you really boil it all down, the science shows that controlling belly fat is less about depriving yourself and more about making smarter swaps. It's about choosing foods that work with your body's chemistry, not against it. So that leaves one question. What's one simple food swap you can make starting today?